Let's learn how to build a data dashboard using out-of-the-box Microsoft tools to create a robust and meaningful data visual and publish it as part of a dashboard in 10 minutes or less. After watching this video, you will be able to list the benefits of data and what they support, steps to constructing a data visualization, the types of data you will need for visualizations, where you might be able to find such data, and how to author and publish a data visualization into a data dashboard. So what is data and what are the benefits? Data helps answer 4 key questions. Is it different? Whatever you are studying or looking at, is it somehow not the same as other things that you look at in the normal course of business? Is it worth it? Do you want to invest time, effort, money, whatever resources that you are interested in getting a return on? Will you get such a return on whatever the investment is? And data can help answer that question. Is it measurable? One of the types of data points that we will talk about is qualitative versus quantitative data. And people often mistake feelings for real hard facts. And so data helps us to understand where the line crosses between wishful thinking and forecasts that make sense to reasonable people. And then finally, did you change it? If you were looking to have an impact on something and you did make an investment, did you achieve the result that you were looking to accomplish? Did you get the return that you were seeking? Or did you see the change in the behaviors that you were looking to encourage? So data helps us to answer some important questions in life, and there are 5 easy steps one can follow to building a data visual that you can use in a data dashboard. First, you need to frame the question that you are asking. Then you need to decide what type of data specifically makes sense to be relevant evidence to provide support for or against whatever the conclusion for the study of the question is. Once you have determined what data you would like to use to study the question, then you need to collect it and ask it from reliable sources. Once you have collected the data, then you will analyze it using the tools and the techniques that make sense for the particular question being studied. And then finally, you will share those results in a meaningful way, presented so that people can understand them the same way that you do. So those are the 5 steps, and we are going to move through them next few moments. And first, we're going to talk about the relevant data types for use. A moment ago, we made reference to qualitative data and quantitative data. The key difference between them being that qualitative has an L, which you can say is for label, and the quantitative has an N, which you can say is for number. Labels are things like yes/no questions, high, medium, or low, which may refer to ranges that are different from person to person. Hot or cold, if you have 2 people in the same room who adjust the thermostat, they may have different ideas on what is the threshold for hot or cold. Again, people's feelings, sense of smell, value judgments, and when you ask people questions that require open text, those tend to be qualitative types of data. Quantitative data, on the other hand, are numbers and lend themselves to the use of statistics, such as counting, putting sums together, means, medians, and modes, using statistical deviations to measure variation, and determining whether or not things are statistically significant in terms of the question being studied. Reliable sources provide data sets of consistently valid results we can return to again and again with faith that the numbers we find there can be faithfully reproduced by others. Primary sources are data that you or eyewitnesses generate or observe directly, and they usually provide the best evidence to directly answer your question if it is, again, a source that you yourself have generated to answer the question. They may take time to collect. You may do surveys, for instance, that will require time to ask people questions and collate the answers, and they may be expensive to collect, requiring some significant resources, at the very least, the resource of time. Secondary sources, on the other hand, is data generated by others. It's data that was being generated regardless of the fact that you were asking a question. So it may not be immediately directly relevant to your question because, again, it was data that was being collected already for whatever reason. So since it was data that was being collected already, it is usually less expensive to collect because other people are already investing in gathering that data, and it's usually faster to collect because it's usually available immediately. There are other nuances to these types of data sources, such as whether or not it is from your own organization or from other people, so internal versus external, whether or not it is a public available source from the government, for instance, or whether or not it's a free or a data source that one needs to pay for. Typically, there are many sources of data that are available on a public basis that are very robust. For instance, immediately examples come to mind are the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Bureau of the Census, and most recently, we've seen several institutions and organizations devote resources to studying the COVID-19 challenge, which we will use as an example in our data visualization in a moment. We want to show that there are some sources of reliable data that you can use to understand how you might be able to address this risk that we all face in the United States here with the COVID-19 influenza variants. So the COVID-19, the question that you may be asking yourself is, how threatened is my state? So how threatened is my family, my business, my loved ones? And so that's the question that we intend to study with this data dashboard, is how threatened is my state? And so as evidence of that, you might go looking for the data on the number of hospitalizations, the number of beds that might be needed, the number of ventilators, etc. And one such reliable source of this type of information is the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, the IHME. And they are providing the model that policymakers in the United States are using to base their decisions on how we react to and proactively address the virus as a national challenge. So to study this, we're going to use a tool called Power BI, and we're going to take a look at the numbers over time. So that's the analysis tool set that we'll use, and ultimately we'll put that together in a map of the United States as a visualization that proceeds over the course of time so that we can see just how big an impact this virus has in the various locations. So again, frame the question, find relevant data, and then go get a source for that relevant data, analyze that data, and then show results in a way that people understand. So those are the 5 steps that we're going to go through for COVID-19. Here is an example from the IHME. You see in the bottom right corner, the source is given there. And this is taking a look at 4 different states of Iowa, California, Pennsylvania, and Florida through the interactive dashboard that they have. Again, this is data that IHME was collecting to begin with, so I don't have much choice in what numbers they're presenting. This is the dashboard they have chosen to share with me. And so since I have family members in 4 different states, if I'm interested in looking at those 4 different states, then I have to go look at it the way that the IHME would like me to see. If I would like to tailor that so that I can see the information in a way that makes sense to me, then I'm going to get the source data. So there is a location for that on the IHME webpage. Once I get the source data, I want to transform that data. And then once I transform that data, I'm going to choose the proper visualization, such as an ArcGIS map for Power BI to do that. So here's what the 4 sets of graphs might look like from the IHME. And now we'll show you what the process might look like and how we might build a dashboard through the Power BI. Please turn your attention to the written instructions on the screen for the next several minutes as we walk through this example. And we will be back with the voiceover in just a few moments. Once again, this is what the visualization looked like that we saw in the Power BI demo. And here is a list of free sources that you might want to take advantage of from both commercial sources that are made available for free. You might have to provide an email address in order to get into it. And then from some government sources that are paid for by tax dollars.